Growing up, I was always that kid like in the front row of the bleachers, like hanging on the poles, playing around like under the bleachers and stuff like that. Um, Probably did a little bit more talking to my friends and watching the games. But I mean, some of the athletes I remember that really like inspired me to play football were like Josh Link, let's see, Tyler Link. Um, I could think of Remy Larson. Just kind of players in that era, just in like the late 2000s to like 2013. If you grew up a Granville football player, you already know Scotty McMullen. Scotty McMullen's probably the greatest football player to ever come through Granville. Played quarterback at OSU. Um, Scotty was awesome, just from like what I've heard. Obviously, I wasn't alive at that time, but uh, I think he kind of like set the standard because we've had some pretty good Granville quarterbacks come through, and I know he had a great running back, Nick Clone. He he was balling. And where'd he go? He went to Rutgers, and those are two D1 Big Ten athletes in the backfield. That's pretty unmatched on the state level. You don't really see that from like a smaller school very often. So yeah, I think with Matt Havens would have been in that era. Matt Havens is an all-state receiver, I believe. We call him Have God. He used to be our coach. He's a good dude. But yeah, I mean they definitely set the standard because we've had some pretty good teams come up. I think we all look up to how they played on the field. Yeah, so David Fraley probably would have been when we were like fifth, sixth grade, yeah. Right? So that's when we started doing like tackle football, and we were getting more into like the high school games. So I actually remember David pretty well. I remember not only on the gridiron, but also on the basketball court, and he was always like a good leader. He was a crazy athlete. A big memory I have from like the David Fraley era was I was actually with you, Andy, when we were down at Jackson, and he got the dub in that game. I remember Gabe Perini making a crazy play, stripping the ball out, running back for a touchdown. I remember David made some really nice throws during that game. And then like a couple years later, you got Isaac Maurer, got an absolute cannon on him. I remember he had great receivers in Hunter Orth, Brock Hill, AJ Alderman, and I believe David and AJ also played together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And AJ made great impacts, and he was always open for David and Isaac. But yeah, with Isaac, I remember that even better because I was a little bit older. Well, first, okay, so when I kind of like got into like high school football was like with the Purdy's, Daniel and Jake. And Jake was going to be a senior the following year. They like kind of introduced me to the weight room, got me working out with like guys like Derek Fry, got me in the weight room. Yeah, Derek kind of built my foundation. He ended up being our strength coach for a while, and I kind of got to learn how to work hard in the weight room from Jake Purdy, Jake Peterson. All right, so I mean, after like obviously we had like winter conditioning and lifting, we went into the infamous Love Week, which was a week of crazy conditioning and that was in like the Coach Wade era, I'm gonna assume. I don't know if Coach Hensley did that, but Love Week was our first week of summer. It was a 6 a.m. to like what, 10 or 11:30 workout full of fun, military inspired workouts. I remember our first year, our motto was Year of the Wolves, or Yatwa, like we'd like to say. I remember we were all like in a circle doing up downs in the infamous Coach King, who's a dear friend of mine, started spatting off like facts about wolves, and talk about how like the need of like being in a pack and like having your brothers by your side, and how they can eat, run without any sleep, and they wanted to inspire us, I think, that year with like the wolf analogy. Yeah, so my first year was it's kind of funny to look back on. So I was one of 3 quarterbacks in the program. Me, Cameron Crouch, and Jake Peterson. And we were all coached under like kind of a mix between Coach Waite and Coach Hensley, mostly Coach Hensley, but obviously Coach Waite was the head coach, so he had a big play in it. So I got to be close with Coach Waite because of that. Got to dress on Friday nights and kind of see what Coach Waite was all about, or what Coach Waite was all about when I was a freshman. And my first impression, honestly, as like a quarterback from him, was he was always very like precise in like what he meant. Like there were like, he had like little like sayings and like words, like, and you really had to like pick up on them. And I think he coached his quarterbacks up really well in terms of like just like basic football knowledge. Obviously Coach Hensley was more like leading the way in that, but like going into my sophomore year, I felt like I had a really good relationship with Coach Waite. During that season, he was pretty flexible with me because obviously I was behind a really great quarterback in Cam Crouch, and I was like, well, I'm like a 5'9" like skinny quarterback. I'm never gonna play over Cam. So Coach Waite was actually super like he understood that, and he understood that I wanted to get on the field and make an impact because I felt like I could. So he allowed me to like kind of work my way into different positions, and I really respected Coach Waite for that. Mm-hmm. And he's still like today, like we had him last year for like government. He's written recommendation letters for me. Yeah, Coach Waite, he's like I consider him a mentor. Mm-hmm. He's a really great person. So well, the first thing was I remember getting like a text or like a message on Schoology of like Coach Waite was like, hey, everybody, we got a mandatory meeting in the locker room like 7:45 or something like that before school. And I was like, all right, cool. He's probably gonna talk about like lifting or something like that. And then he kind of started to talk about like how much he like loves like the program and like how much like he's loved his time here. And then he kind of like it was super surprising when he left. He kind of dropped that on us, and we were sad. We understood why he needed to lead the program. It was for own personal reasons, and he just he had to make sure he got himself right before he could come back to coaching, or if he wants to even come back to coaching. But I was sad. I cried. I'll admit it, I cried. The rest of the day, I was just like shocked. But we understood. We understood like he has to be a man, and he has to look after his family. And but transitioning into the next like following months, I started to get some wind that like Coach Buttermore from Tri-Valley, because I have connections to Tri-Valley. I have connections. My mom's side of the family still lives over there, and my grandpa, he was telling me, he's like, that Buttermore guy, he likes Granville. I heard he's gonna go try to get an interview. So I heard that like a couple weeks after Coach Waite resigned, and so I was like, cool. I know Coach Buttermore is an awesome coach, and he just led his team to a state final. Unfortunately lost, but it was still a great run. And then we kind of like got some like developments coming in, like, oh, there's this guy. But then once we heard the name Coach Buttermore, we were like, oh my gosh, this actually might be a thing. Like, this guy's phenomenal, and we've only heard good things about him. So like a couple months pass, and our former AD was working really, really hard on getting Coach Buttermore, and he finally got him. And then I remember the day that Coach Buttermore got hired, we were like, after like interviews with like players and stuff, everybody's like, Coach Buttermore's in the building, guys. Like, everybody's like freaking out. And I was like, sweet, all right. So maybe this guy will lead us to like a playoff victory, coming off like a playoff loss. And then once we first met him, I was blown away. I was like, wow, this guy really knows how to lead a team. Knowing some former players of his through like my family connections, I kind of talked to them, and they were like, yeah, this guy's the real deal. And then when we kind of put it together that he had 2 kids coming up in the program, Bo, which is one of my best friends now, and Doak, who I consider another good friend, it kind of made the rival of Coach Buttermore even more special, because we kind of got to connect with him through his kids. But yeah, when Coach Buttermore came, we were all super stoked. And yeah, again, so I'll say this probably 5 more times in this interview. My come up in Granville football was super unique. I was a quarterback my freshman sophomore year, and then under Coach Buttermore, like throughout that summer, he like kind of knew I was a quarterback, but like they knew I didn't really want to play there anymore, because I just felt like that wasn't my best chance to get on the field and help out our team. So during that summer, I kind of like bounced around through positions. I played some receiver. I played some will linebacker. I kind of played running back here and there. And there's one day, I mean, we had a couple injuries going into our camp, and Coach Buttermore kind of sat me down, and he was like, hey, look, I know you're like not very big, not very strong, and but like you're pretty smart, and you're kind of agile, so I'm gonna stick you at Leo, which Leo is a hybrid outside linebacker and defensive end. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be crazy. This is super new for me. I'm usually a skill position guy. And so he trusted me, and he trusted my abilities, and I really appreciate him for that. And he gave me a chance to try something new. And fortunately, during that camp, I learned a ton from guys like Coach Matheny, and even when Max Margraf was when Max was hurt, he mentored me along with Garrett Sutliff. They just kind of showed me how to play D-line. And being anchored there during camp with Trent Compton, that was awesome, because he taught me how to be tough and not give in when someone was bigger than you and stuff like that. So, I mean, growing up, I'm going to take this all the way back to like 5th grade. So 5th grade, me and Andy were on the same team. We were Granville White, and we had guys in the 6th grade, like Tommy Wolf, like Trent and Cameron, all those guys, Jack Owen. They were really good, and we ended up winning the LCL championship for like the Biddy League. And they, going up through middle school, they were undefeated. That class was undefeated, and we were always like kind of like behind them a little bit, obviously like size and maturity, but that class, they had a lot of hype. They've had a lot of hype, and they were great football players. I know their freshman year, they have like 4 or 5 varsity starters as freshmen, and that was really kind of a thing that Granville hadn't really done in the past, where you had like more than maybe 1 or 2 freshmen like playing on varsity. But even like going up through junior year, when they were seniors, I'd say like there was a ton of buzz. There was a ton of buzz about this senior class. There was a ton of them. They're big, they're strong, guys like Jim Beatty, Owen Schwab, just big linemen, good skill players like Ethan Tackett and Keegan Van Meter, Brandon Haley, obviously maybe one of the greatest football players to ever come through the LCL. I mean, yeah, they had great expectations, and through our junior year, they fought hard. We took a really hard loss to Northland, playing against the Brandon brothers, Khalil and John. That was a really good game. But then after that, we won out. We won our first playoff game in Granville history, which that's something. I mean, obviously something that no team at Granville has ever done before. And that senior class led us to that victory, and that's super special. And it's something that nobody can ever take away from them, because they worked hard, and they grinded for the victory. But then unfortunately the victory was to Jackson High School, and then unfortunately we lost to Sheridan the game after that. But they definitely left their mark and their impact on Granville football forever. Everybody's going to remember that class. And they were also great mentors on the field, if I hadn't already mentioned that. So yeah, so pretty much after the season ended, the Sheridan loss definitely put a bad taste in our mouth. We did not play to expectation in that game. And I think that fired us up for the following year in the weight room. Me personally, I was playing that Leo position, which I would oftentimes be in a 4-point stance against guys who are 6'4", 280 pounds, and I'd have to try to work my way around them and do certain things. So I knew the next year, or in that winter, I had to get in the weight room, and so I did have a great winter in the weight room. I gained somewhere around 45 pounds, and Coach Buttermore's strength and conditioning program really proved itself, because we'd heard about it at Tri-Valley, him creating these big, monstrous dudes. So, and not that I'm a big, monstrous dude, but he definitely contributed to my success in the field. And also, I felt like I was able to take that initiative in the weight room and kind of put it into a leadership role, which through the spring and the summer kind of played itself into me becoming a captain, along with my fellow teammates and Bo Buttermore and Zach Walsh. So the whole senior process, I feel like it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about leadership and how to get a group of 14 to 18-year-old men to listen to you. And I think that's a very underratedly hard thing. And fortunately, I had great leaders around me too that weren't even captains. I'm thinking guys like Joe Welsh, Dom Verasso, Ramsey, Daniel Purdy. They helped the captains. They helped the captains lead, and we were able to lead by an example on and off the field. But yeah, growing up, watching Granville football your whole life, and then all of a sudden it's your time. You're a senior. You're the big dog. It's super special, and I wouldn't have changed anything I wouldn't change anything about it. Mm-hmm. We had a really strong camp. We had some strong scrimmages. We went down to Wheelersburg, kind of smacked them around a little bit. We were kind of starting to get a little more buzz. Bo Buttermore, quarterback, 5'8", little shifty guy, being able to toss around the pigskin a little bit to good receivers like Don Verasso, Zach Walsh, Keyshawn Bonner, and then young emerging stars like Ethan Ramsey, where I guess Ethan wasn't young, but he was a senior. But Colin Sheehan, some younger guys contributed like Doak Buttermore, Devin Haley. So yeah, but we got through those scrimmages, and then our first game of the season was against Marion Franklin, and they were no slouch. They were really good. They had great players. They truly embodied what I think like a tough city league team looked like. And I remember even being like kind of a bigger fullback in the LCL, having to go up and hit their linebackers, and that wasn't easy. And fortunately, we were able to stop them on defense many times throughout the game. And we were able to get a kick return for a touchdown, I believe. Zach Walsh returned one. Was that right? I think. Yeah, Zach returned one. We got a couple touchdowns here and there. We ended up pulling out with the victory. And it was our first victory as a senior class. But so after the Marion Franklin game, we had to go up and play Clear Fork, come back, play Eastmore, and then after that, I believe we played Johnstown. Johnstown was week 4, I believe. And what's actually special about the Clear Fork game was that was their first game, I believe, in their new stadium, on their new turf, and they had a regular season winning streak, and we went in and we destroyed them. That was pretty fun, and we kind of got to walk around after that game with our heads high, and people were starting to pay attention to us. They're like, wow, this Granville team's no joke. And then after that, going into Eastmore, we knew Eastmore was going to be super athletic. They had just come off of a historic season the year before, and we knew we had a challenge up for us, and so we were able to scrap together a good game plan. Obviously, Coach Bartimore is a great coach, and featuring new coaches like Coach Mickey, Coach Riley. Got to shout out Coach Smith, Coach Hill, all those guys. They were able to put together good game plans for those first 4 games that were pretty tough. But yeah, we made it through those first 4 games, going to Johnstown and beating them, and beating Eastmore, obviously. We made it undefeated through those first 4 games. And I mean, after that, we had a little bit easier part of our schedule coming up. And we kind of, I wouldn't say we were in a lull a little bit. We kind of were. We were kind of cruising a little bit. And that was probably due to how challenging our first 4 games were. But, I mean, we beat teams like Licking Heights, Northridge, Utica. Yeah, so after the Valley game, we knew we had to reevaluate. They were obviously a great team last year, made it to the state championship. But yeah, we were hurt after that loss, and we knew we had to be better. So the week after, we played Watkins Memorial, and we took care of them pretty well. We ended up gaining a pretty, what seed were we? 2 seed? 4 seed. We were a 4 seed, and we found out that we were going to play Zanesville High School. And that was actually, we liked that a lot. Coach Bartimore's got ties to Zanesville. We played them in years prior, we played them for 2 years in a row in the 2017-2018 season. And we beat them both times, so it's obviously hard to beat a team 3 times, and we knew there was a challenge there. We knew they had athletes and speed all around, but I mean, I'd like to say Coach Bartimore is in the business of beating Zanesville. He knows how to do it. It's something he's very good at. And he put together, like, that had to be probably the best game plan I've ever seen him put together for a team. We needed that victory, obviously, or else we would go home because it was the playoffs. So we went into that game with a lot of fire. And we started out hot, stayed hot the whole game. Our defense really showed its true colors in the fact that we were tough, we were scrappy. We played assignment football. We did everything Coach Baltimore told us to do. And we ended up getting our playoff victory as a 2020 class. So, and that was actually the last game played on our home field in Granville High School. So after the Harley game, that was obviously, it was a tough loss because I'm not playing football at the collegiate level, and that was my last time putting on the pads. And being what I'd like to call kind of a Granville football historian almost, I'd say I felt like I was in a special group. I was a Granville football alumni. I had done my time, and I had enjoyed the game as much as I could. And I got to really reflect on like the memories I made and the teammates that I had, and just kind of the crazy experiences of being on the field with guys like Brandon Haley, like Cam Crouch, Bo Bottermore, witnessing greatness. I really appreciated my time, and I really appreciated my coaches and Coach Waite and Coach Bottermore, because they made me into the man I am today. And I think, and they had a large impact in making me into the man I am today.